Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got Mike Russo with us today. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Ola?
Doing fantastic, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us here. I cannot wait to digging into your story. So just actually maybe tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, how you got started, and kind of what are you doing lately, actually.
Sure. So how did I get started? The actually funny part about my story, how I got started, is I used to work at the corporation that used to be called Sendent and today is called Realogy, which Realogy owns Century 21, Coldwell Banker, ERA, Sotheby's International Realty, and Better Homes and Gardens, and Corcoran Real Estate. And this was back in '02, and I worked in a different division at the time that was a vacation rental network, like wannabe like VRBO today, or probably more like VRBO. And I took a job there, and I worked there for about a couple months, and then I was traveling on my territory, and we had a conference call, and all of a sudden everybody in the sales team was let go. And luckily I had this boss that had been with the broader company Sendent for quite some time. We had a real estate group, which is today Realogy. We had a hotel group, and he said, you know what, come to the home office in New Jersey. I lived in Massachusetts. Come to the home office in 2 weeks. Like, I'm going to focus on making sure you get a job. And I got a job in the Coldwell Banker Group, being the assistant vice president of franchise sales in Chicago. So I had to uproot and move to Chicago for a job. And then I think I only did that for about 6 months. And then in February of 2004, we bought the rights to Sotheby's International Realty. And that sprungboard me into like what's now been this absolute wild ride of almost 17 years in being in real estate. And so I left that in 2006 because I got tired of corporate life and thought that, I'm going to go out and run a brokerage, right? Like, that's the promised land. And so I went to Aspen, Colorado, and I was supposed to be partners with the gentleman that owned the Sotheby's International Realty there. And in my first 100 days, he walks into my office and says, if you don't take over the company, I'm going to bankrupt it. And so here I am. I got 4 kids at the time, and I go home and I tell my wife what happens, and my wife says, "Oh, well, I have some of my own news. I'm pregnant." And so,
Wow, I never thought this story could get any better.
right? Oh no, it's like you asked for it, so I'm giving it to you. And so I did that, and I took over the company, and I turned it around. It wasn't run very well, and I made it profitable really quick. Our revenue was rising, our sales, our costs were decreasing, and then the Great Recession happens, right? And so the literally, and I just told this story to my children. We rode through 2009. It was an absolute disaster. I just was telling somebody in another conversation that I think I was the one that coined the phrase, no one needs to buy a home in Aspen, because it's known as being the wealthy playground. And so here we are, it's January 2010, January 1st, 2010, and I'm losing my house, right? Like, I had to give up my company. I merged it with the other largest company in the market, and I had $1,000 to my name, right? 5 kids, $1,000 to my name. And I just woke up every day and said, my kids got a roof over their head, food on their table, and like nobody's sick or dying. And like anything other than that, it was a great day, right? And those are the 3 things, God first for me, and then those 3 things. And
Oh man, that is
it's
so good, Mike. You are,
right.
oh my goodness, that is so good. Sorry to interrupt. That is
No,
so good.
right. And so I became partner. Chad Roffers and Laura Brady, who had founded Concierge Auctions, asked me to come join them. And I joined at the end of January 2010. And I helped them create Concierge Auctions, which is based in Austin, Texas today, to the largest luxury real estate auction firm in America and Europe, really. And that it's a very nice company. It specializes in super high-end real estate, and it's a very bespoke, very customized marketing, send a salesperson to the market to help sell their house, very, very tailored on a client basis. And I did that until the end of 2017. I was very fortunate. And I left and decided to try something different, and sold my interest back to Laura and Chad. And then the first year of 2017, I flipped some homes. It's funny, since I've been doing these podcasts, I've all of a sudden been learning about wholesaling, which quite frankly, I don't really get, because I actually used cash to buy the houses, or I, use somebody else's cash. But did very well in 2017. I don't know how many, do you have many investors that listen to this show?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, many.
So my lessons on that, and it really came out of my time in the auction business, and then I applied it to my first year of flipping, and I did a couple new construction condos, is that it doesn't matter how good you think you can build, how effective you are, how much less you can do it for because you have the right people. It's all about how well you buy it, right? And if you don't buy it well enough to where I can have my purchase and my input cost to change it, and my price on the sale, exiting the sale, maybe you could save 10 or 15% on the construction aspect, but it really comes down to how well you buy it. And so I did that successfully. I did, I don't know, 1.2, about $3 million in homes in the first year, right? And we made money. It was great. And my big fear for it was, I didn't think that I could sustain buying right. I didn't think I could sustain buying right. So, and then how I came up with Spark Offer and Spark Auction, we have two products, was really, I started bidding on properties that were listed with a local REO broker. And one property, I gave them a full price cash offer, and they come back and say, I'm sorry, but we've had multiple offers and you're going to have to resubmit in 3 days. And it was really awful. It was the way I looked, and you look at America today and all these markets, like it's so hot. I was on a show the other day and somebody was telling me in Utah, my son was like one of 26 offers in 48 hours. And what I had said when my partner Max and I had created Spark Offer was, this is just a bad auction, right? And there's no transparency. I don't know if they really have 3 offers, 5 offers. You don't know anything. And even though every real estate agent, including myself, will tell you that we're the most ethical people in the world, right? Everybody thinks you're lying, right? It's awful, right? And then they won't tell you how many offers they have. They won't tell you. And so anyway, so mid 2018, with this, multiple bad experiences in tow, I said, we're going to build Spark Offer. And so what is Spark Offer? Spark Offer is a platform that anybody can use. And we work on deadlines or no deadlines like an auction. People submit their offers, and it creates the kind of prompting and urgency that you get from an auction, whether you're watching or bidding on the property, and you'll get a text message, right? And it's like, boom, we've got 1 offer. Boom, there's 2 offers. Boom, there's 3 offers. And so now on the consumer side, you can sit there and say, okay, well, I know offers are coming in. I knew what it takes to get there because I put one in there myself. And then from that standpoint, the seller can review all their offers with or without an agent, depending on whether they have one, and go through and say, I want to go to best and final. I want to counter somebody, just the standard process, but it's all technology enabled, right? What I'm really passionate right now about, Ola, is our Spark Auction product. Because in this world of multiple offers, too many people are being cast aside, right? How do you manage 20 offers, right? I couldn't imagine. I've managed, I don't know, 3 or 4 at once. It's a lot.
It's
right?
a lot. Yep.
And so The great part about an auction, which, needs to have a rebirth of what it means in America. In Australia, it's used for the hottest properties, not the dejected properties. In America, we've used them for dejected, and we need to use them for the hottest, right? And so on Spark Auction, right? So number one, I'm pro consumer, right? Want to do it yourself? Go ahead. Want to have an agent? Please have an agent. Doesn't matter, right? The next 10 years of our lives are all about the speed in which the consumer can do things, right? And that's our core focus here. And so if you put your property on Spark Auction, we can feed it to Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, right? So you can get plus we have our own database of people on our website all the time, our own traffic that we generate organically. And somebody can put their property up no matter what the price and say, I want to have an auction for my property. I want to sell it in 3 days, 5 days, 40 days, doesn't matter, right? The great thing for the buyers is that the seller sets the rules. So instead of the seller trying to decide, oh, well, this offer has this and this offer has that, we help guide them through it. Do you want to have a cash offer, or do you want to have a mortgage contingency? Part of the rules. Do you want to have an inspection period or sell as is? I want to have an inspection period because I'll get more money. Great. How long should the inspection period be? Set a fixed time. So everybody that comes and bids on this property knows the rules. I've got to bid and I've got to have a mortgage. I got to be pre-qualified. I can have an inspection, but it's got to be done in 5 or 7, whatever it is. There's no randomness to it, right? Then if I'm a buyer and I agree to these rules and I get to bid on the property, now in real time, you can see what everybody's bidding, just like every other auction platform out there, right? And you can say to yourself, you don't have to have the dreaded phone call from the listing agent or the seller saying, I'm sorry, my seller decided to take somebody else's offer. You just have to decide, do I want to pay the price it says on the screen, right?
Wow.
And the auction will stay open as long as people keep bidding. And so, but then, it'll draw to a close. So for example, if we were closing on an auction today at 5 p.m., as long as people keep bidding, the clock will extend 3 minutes at a time, right? And then once it runs out, it runs out. So you can't snipe it like you can on eBay, right? Like you're not going to lose out because you weren't the last person to press the button, right? So I'm very excited about this. We have a very low fee structure that accounts for people that want to save money and do it themselves or do it in conjunction with an agent.
Wow, this is wow.
I really rambled on. I'm sorry.
No, you did not. I try not to interrupt my guest. I try to be a better listener. So that, I mean, I just took so many notes. There's just so many things that you said that just kind of stuck with me. And you just saying, like, with everything that happened to you, you still woke up with that heart of gratitude. Like, I've got my 5 beautiful kids. They have food in their belly, roof over their head, even though you had, not a lot of money in your account. And I think as, real estate entrepreneurs, even myself as a young, I'm in my 30s now, a lot of guys just want to buy big properties so they can show off on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, but really just having that sense. And I think that's probably what's helped you to get this far, is just really having that central, kind of that sense of gratitude, right? To kind of make you grounded, I think is what's helped you. So I really like that you mentioned that. I really want to go back though.
Sure.
Yeah, I took a lot of notes. I mean, literally got your timeline right here. So, so do you think your experience at concierge auctions, is that helping Spark Options in any way? Like really just that time you spent?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I came into concierge literally not knowing anything and about the auction business, and had the fortune and the opportunity that during the 7 years there, we sold $1 billion in homes. We auctioned Michael Jordan's property. We auctioned an investment property for Nick Saban. And we auctioned properties for hundreds of people you'd never hear of,
That
right?
is so fascinating. I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, of course, people are selling houses for celebrities, but I just never thought it was a thing. I mean, it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, when you think about our current market today and how we sell real estate is, you decide like, hey, I want X, right? I want 500,000. I've looked at all the comps, and I've spent all this time on Zillow and Redfin, and I think my property's worth 500,000. And you put it out there, and then either something happens or it doesn't, right? And if nothing happens, then especially, what's your next move, right? Oh, I got to lower the price, right? And I got to guess at it. And then what do I do? Then if my property sells, great. If it doesn't, I got to guess at it again. And so you create this stigma for your property of like this price reduction cycle that is in a way like a Dutch auction, right? Where I'm just going to keep dropping it and except there's no system to it. It's just based on what I feel like, right?
Very emotionally driven.
Well, I mean, just think of the average person that sells a property, even not the average, right? So I'll give you an example of a story. So years ago, I went on an appointment in Aspen with one of my agents, and we went and pitched this seller, and I had all the data. I was very data driven. I'm still very data driven. We're doing massive, awesome things with data here at Spark Auction, and so we sit there and say, seller, based on all the comps, your property is probably worth 10.5 million, and we should price it at 11 and sell it probably within 6 months. And we didn't get it, right? Some other agent got it, and they listed it for 14 million. And over a 2-year period, they kept dropping the price and dropping the price and dropping the price, and it sold roughly for, ta-da, 10.5
million, yeah,
right?
of course.
And so so that's the challenge, right? Because sellers, it doesn't matter whether your house is $200,000 or $20 million. They have this massive intrinsic value of like, my house is better than somebody else's, right? And therefore someone should pay more money for it. Or I paid X to build it, so therefore it should be X plus Y. And it doesn't work that way. And so, everybody wants to say we're in a market-driven economy, but, and it works that way with stocks, right? It works that way with options. It works that way, but it doesn't really work that way with houses, right? Because it starts out that the seller says, I'm willing to sell for X, and the market either likes it or it doesn't. And so, we think that in relation with our products, like Spark Offer works with a guide range, right? I'm a seller, I'm willing to take between X and Y, right? Telling the market, here's where I'm at. And so, we're trying to, we live with the mantra of creating more transparency.
Yes, which is like extremely needed, right, in the real estate industry. Our industry is quite archaic, actually. There's still a lot of things that we can do in the prop tech world, which I'm really monitoring. Actually, I'm looking at maybe startup companies I can invest in the prop tech world. So it's really fascinating. I went on your website actually as you were talking. So I've got a quick question before we actually dive a little bit deeper into Spark Offer and Spark Auction. So you said you did some flips, you did some construction, condos, things like that. But it's not about, how well you can mitigate and manage expenses, but it's just how you buy it. So where did that thought come from? I want you to kind of elaborate a little bit more on that and just kind of give us some nuggets, because I think that was coming from a place where there's a little bit left. So I want us to kind of finish that. Yeah.
So sure. So in the 7 years I spent with Concierge Auctions, in my first 7 years in the auction business, we did a lot of properties because we started in the wake of the recession, right? And we sold a lot of properties that might have been in an A market, but a B location, right? And because the market was hot leading up to that, so much like today, right? And people were buying properties in the B location and then trying to add value for them. But then, by the time the market got caught up, right? Or by the time the market flipped, they were upside down. There was nothing they could do about it because the initial buy is too much, right? And so on that note, we do always talk about location, right? And literally what I said coming out of the Great Recession was that if anybody forgot that these were the three main rules of real estate, they handedly got reminded.
Yeah.
And even in the flips that I did, I purchased location first, right? I purchased location first, and there was a lot of things we walked away from because it might have been an A town, right? But it was a B location within that town, and that was how I felt. The other thing is, no matter whether you're in Anchorage, Alaska, or Mobile, Alabama, or Houston, Texas, right? If I was advising anyone that's listening to your show, right, focus on schools, right? People pay for schools.
Wow,
Right.
that's a good one. That's a good
And
one.
when the market gets tough, right, when the market gets tougher, right, people will still pay for schools, right? In fact, you'll have more people pay for schools because maybe if I could have afforded to send my kid to private school before and I want to save that money, right? Like I have to pay up to be in this town, but at least I don't have to pay for private education, right?
Makes
And
sense.
so those are my couple main things that I look at when investing, right? A location within the town, right? Towns for me are driven by schools. And we sold a property on Spark Offer in Greenwich, Connecticut. It's one of the most talked about towns today because it was in a 10-year depression, right? Because
Wow.
of the expensive homes. And so, but then comes this pandemic, right? And whoosh, there's a massive amount of people coming out of New York saying, I'm out of here, right? I got to have a pool, my own backyard. I need space. I need more room. But even then, like this particular house that we sold, and it's on the website on Orchard Hill Road, when we looked at it with the seller, they would say like, well, that guy's getting more and that guy's getting more. And even within that town, it was considered that they were in a better school district for elementary school, those other properties, than his property, right? And so he was getting a decreased value based on the fact that he wasn't considered in the better school district, even within a fantastic town, one of the wealthiest towns in America.
Wow. Fascinating. Fascinating. So one more thing, actually, one more thing.
Ask away.
I sound like Columbo. One more thing, one more thing. You mentioned REO brokers. How do you find REO brokers, and who are REO brokers?
Oh, yeah, I don't know how to find them, quite honest. I mean, you could. I guess the easiest way to do it is just search online and find people selling the junkiest houses in a town.
Mm,
Um, and then go to them directly if you're an investor. So, because REO brokers tend to be someone that specializes in those relationships with the bank or the
mhm.
servicers, and they're getting those listings. So, for example, about half hour away from me, there's a guy named Cliff Ponte, right? And I know in my area, he does a lot of the REO homes, right? And depending on how big they are, so like, some of them I've dealt with, you can't even get in touch with them, right? So that's part of the frustration for even when I bid on some of my first REO homes. And I was like, well, how long do I make this offer good for? And they said, doesn't matter. The bank won't adhere to your timeline anyway. So just put whatever you want. And if you wind up getting awarded the property, they'll call you and
They'll
ask
let
you.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
awful.
that's interesting because obviously, I dwell in here, we buy apartments. So it'll be quite interesting to know where to find those brokers. So it was more of a selfish question.
Got it.
Yeah. So really fascinated about Spark Offer. You guys have done an incredible job. I was on your website. The UI is amazing. I see the list of sold properties as well. I was just kind of poking around. What is the plan? Are you looking to make this into a unicorn? Are you looking for more private equity capital? What is the exit strategy, or if any? I'm just curious.
So I don't exist. I mean, I don't run any of the companies, and this is, there's actually a company that I still own a portion of today that I started in 2009 called Russo, which does specially internet marketing for real estate. And we were in Techstars in one of the first groups of Techstars, which has become this, huge firm, massive companies have come out of it. And I think it's, I don't know, I'm not somebody that looks and says, hey, I think I can create the next unicorn, right? I'm kind of guy that says, okay, like, how do we get to first base, right? And getting to first, or how do we create value in our product? I think from that standpoint, if we just focus on value for the consumer, right? And remember, like, I'm focused, I'm pro-consumer, right? And if we can get clients and listen to our clients and do a good job for them, then the market will kind of determine, that part of it. In regards to raising capital, we generate revenue, like, we're not working for free, right? But we do work off a, what I would call a reasonable fee. We charge 2% transaction fee, right? And so but I think capital comes based on, need, right? So if all of a sudden I had, 5,000 people that wanted to sell with us, I probably would need to go raise capital just to meet that demand, right? And so, I'm out just going out and trying to be who I uniquely am, right? And I'm a guy that's been in this business for a long time. I think many things about it are broken. I'm trying to address that with the products that I've created for the consumer, and so that I can empower them to be, and do, so they can do great things, right? Because the non-professional, meaning like the non-pro investor, you know, this asset, we always say it is one of their biggest assets in their lives. And, we sold a property in Austin, Texas, where that person got an offer from an iBuyer. And then they put their property on Spark Offer, and he got a much better offer through Spark Offer, leveraging what we do. And I said to him, like, hey, it's great. You got like 15% more for your house. And he said, yeah, well, I guess you could kind of look at it like that and make it seem like that's cool. But I actually doubled my equity. Right. And so and so now, like, and for him, it was like $40,000 more. Right. And so that's 40. When I went and he bought his next house, which he already had under contract, I mean, just think of what $40,000 less mortgage means over 30 years to your life.
A lot.
Right?
A lot. Yeah.
So, I want to go on the road of creating these tools to help people, empower their lives around real estate, which will hopefully, also encircle them around their ability to have financial freedom.
So do you allow folks to sell land, or this is just strictly single family homes?
No, you could sell land.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, Mike, we can keep going, but we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are quick questions, quick answers. You ready, sir?
Yes.
All right.
The lightning round.
Lightning round. First question: what makes you, Mike, unique, or Spark Offer, whichever you prefer? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or the next girl?
That's a good question. You know what? I've got a huge amount of experience in every facet of this business, from franchising, from brokerage to auctioning to software development. I'm not really sure how many people have done that in 15 years. And I've been a part of $2 billion in transactions in 27 states and 17 countries, 26 states and 17 countries. And so I think breadth of experience.
Second question: what was the last book that you read, and what was the one thing that you picked out from that book?
Wow. So I read a lot of books, right?
I can tell.
The book that I've been not only just reading, it's called Tiny Habits, and it's by BJ Fogg. He's a Stanford professor, and the book is literally life-changing. And so so my little first tiny habit that I've been trying to do to work on my life is that every morning before my wife leaves for work and I get in the shower, I do 50 push-ups. And if anybody that knows me knows, like, I hate working out. And so, and if this camera was lower, you'd see it. So See, but I've been doing it since November, right? 50 push-ups every day.
Wow.
And so now I'm working on my next tiny habit. So yes, that's not the last book I read, but it's the one I read it recently.
Nice. I took notes. Yeah, I definitely want to check that out. Final question. You've got your 5 kids, you got your wife, you got your businesses, you're a busy man. What do you do for fun?
This is fun, right? Like this is fun to me. It's certainly not work. But it's all fun. Like my life is fun, right? Like I got 5 beautiful children. I get to go to their basketball games. It's why I actually left my old business, right? I was traveling all the time. I was never home. Everybody's, depressed in lockdown. And I'm like, this is awesome. Right. So, as far as just hobbies, like I go to the beach, I live close to the beach. I like to ski. I like to sail. I like to play golf, like whatever. I keep moving.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. If somebody's like, wow, I really like this Mike guy, I want to get to know him better. Where's the best place people can get connected with you, get to know you more?
I would say number one, they can certainly email me at mike@sparkoffer.com. LinkedIn, right? I've got thousands of people I'm connected with, but I haven't hit the point where I can only be followed yet. I'm happy to connect with anybody in LinkedIn. I'm happy to message with them, like give advice, whatever people need.
Mike, thank you so much. You're a legend. Really appreciate your time today. Really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Ola.